I want to talk more, and I know I've talked about this in recent weeks, about the problem the Democratic Party has strongly identifying with the left and pulling together a message that's going to work, because the current message is so clearly not. And to illustrate that, why don't we play a clip? Recently, the chairman of the DNC, Tom Perez, and Senator Bernie Sanders went on the Chris Hayes show. Now, they did this because Bernie and Tom Perez have been doing a tour. They've been going around the country speaking together, which I think is a great step forward for the Democratic Party, for it to embrace Bernie and his message is a great move, and I applaud Tom Perez for doing it. But I think the clip is instructive, and if we play it, I think you'll know what we mean. So, Brad, can we go to that clip?
See, this is what's key to me, and Tom, I want to hear you talk about this, because when you talk about this, there's a bad guy there. There's a villain in the story. There are people that are doing wrong by the American people. Donald Trump is a story where he's got villains as well, and they're different folks. Sometimes they're corporations, mostly they're immigrants and other people. Do you see the world that way, Tom? Is that the Democratic message? Do you think it's important, as the senator sitting next to you just said, to say the ruling class, his words, of this country, are basically screwing average folks?
Well, listen, when we put hope on the ballot, Chris, we win. When we allow our opponents to put fear on the ballot, we don't do so well. I believe that an economy has to work for everyone to be...
Hillary Clinton, this is my point. Hillary Clinton ran on hope. She ran on hope. It was a very hopeful message. And the point is, do you have to name the enemy? That's my question. Do you have to say, these are the people that are screwing you?
Well, listen, I think you're creating a false choice, Chris. What we have to do as Democrats is to articulate very clearly that Donald Trump's vision for America is a vision for the top 1% of the 1%. It's a vision that's divisive.
Look, I get it, okay? The DNC chair's job includes raising money. And right now, the Democratic Party's model includes raising money from really rich people. So I don't want to just trash Tom Perez. No, I get that he's in a tough position. And I get that, I backed Keith Ellison in that conflict or that race for the chairmanship. But look, it doesn't mean I don't get that he's got a tough job. But I think I think this is a really important interchange for a number of reasons. First of all, kudos to Chris Hayes for doing a great job here, pressing the issue. He's by far the best thing on MSNBC as far as I'm concerned. So that's number one. But more importantly, he's absolutely right, and I've been saying this as other people have been saying it for years. You don't reach voters without telling them a story of their lives that makes sense. And the fact is, when bad things happen in your life, and bad things are happening to enormous numbers of Americans, in fact, economically, to the majority of Americans, bad things are happening. If you can't tell them a story about who's doing that to you, your story has no coherence. So Tom Perez's story of hope, quote unquote, he's wrong. You can't tell it without an enemy. And Bernie's right, and the rest of us are right. And that's why Trump won, because he named an enemy. Now, he did so in a hateful and bigoted way. He named innocent people as the enemy, along with the corporations and Wall Street, which he, of course, immediately turned around and embraced because he's a liar. But the fact is, first of all, running as you're not Trump, which was Tom's argument here, failed for Hillary Clinton. Let's not pretend it's going to work. It's not going to work, number one. Number two, you got to be willing to offend some people. Well, that gets the question of, well, how does Tom Perez do his job? How does he raise money if he's out there insulting people with money? Well, here's how. Bernie Sanders raised, I believe I have my numbers right, just for a primary campaign, $228 million. And he did that on an average contribution, you probably know this number already, of $27 per contribution. Now, this suggests that the Democrats, if they have a message that really resonates with people, they can get money. they can get money from the people instead of the wealthy. Why is that so important? Because both Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, in their own statements and or writing, have made it crystal clear that there is a payoff for giving them big amounts of money. As Hillary Clinton said at one point, I will not change my opinion if you give me money. I will give you a hearing, but that doesn't guarantee I will change my opinion. So she confessed, and now she didn't see it that way, but she confessed that money buys you an audience for your point of view. Now, if rich people are buying audiences and the rest of us cannot, the people in power get a distorted point of view. And I believe that is precisely what happened to the Democratic Party. Barack Obama, in The Audacity of Hope, describes almost exactly the same thing, listening to the wealthy because they were his donors, and then finding out that they had certain points of view in common or certain things they said made sense. What they were both describing, although they don't realize it, is the genteel and legal corruption that takes place when you depend for money on large dollar contributors. So that tells us a couple things. Number one, of course, we have to change the system. Number two, the Democratic Party or somebody has to lead the charge to change the system. Number three, you gotta tell a message that people understand. Number four, that's gotta be a message that people can resonate with, even at the cost of losing some high dollar contributors. Note, by the way, that I said some and not all high dollar contributors. Why did I say that? Because, there will be, until we have a new system, there are very left-leaning wealthy people. Not that many of them, but enough. And there are a lot of people who will pay you an average, a contribution of $27 per, if you have the right message. And I think that's the real takeaway here. Now, here's what is not the real message. Here is not a winning message. The idea somehow that the white working class is contemptible, hateful, that all Trump voters are racist. There are new tropes going around. I'm hoping I'll have the time to write about it. But there are new tropes going around, misinterpreting data, misinterpreting polls and studies to suggest that people only voted for Trump where they had voted previously for Obama because of racism. Now, I hope to get into analyzing the misreading of statistics, the misreading of poll data that leads to that conclusion. But logic bomb number one in all of this is, how can it be that people in the Midwest, white people, were so racist that they wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton, a white person, when, as a group, they voted for Barack Obama, a black person? You've got to double think that one a little bit. Again, there's a lot of flawed analysis behind this, and I hope to get into it in more detail so that I can lay it out. But I will end with this. Ask yourself why there is a class of pundit and a class of consultant in the Democratic Party stream that is so invested in determining that anything but economic injustice, which cuts across class lines, which hits African Americans worse than any other group, which hits Hispanics, which hits trans people, which hits gay people. Why is it that and women also worse than men, why is it that they're so invested in denying the reality of economic injustice when we can have a unified message of justice that is both social and economic? Where is the investment in that? Well, it may go back to exactly what I was just telling you, which is those same big donors.